So I will call to order the Strategic Planning and Marketing Committee regular meeting for Watsonville Community Hospital. Rosie, can we get a roll call?
Yes, Director Gallagher?
Yes, here.
Stephen Gray?
Here.
Julie Peterson?
Yes.
Nancy Gear? And Chair Nunez?
Here. Okay, any agenda modifications for consideration from staff for today's meeting? Okay, seeing none, I'll open it up, for public comment on matters not on today's agenda. And this is matters not on today's agenda. Any public comment?
No hands online.
Okay, anyone wishing to make public comment here? Okay, seeing none, I'll close down the public comment and I'll move on to comments from our committee members. Okay, I will close down the public comment, or the comments for committee members, and I'll move us on to the consent calendar. We have, one item for today's consent calendar, and it is a minutes approval from our previous meeting that happened in October 1st, 2024, when the world was very, very different. Any questions for, staff, about this item before I open up the public comment? Okay. So I'll open up for public comment for, consent item number 1, the minutes approval for October 1st, 2024. Okay.
No hands online.
No hands online, no hands in person. I will, now close down the public comment and entertain an appropriate motion for calendar. Move approval. Second. Thank you.
I'll take a roll on this item. Director Gallagher? Yes. Steve Gray?
Yes.
Julie Peterson? Yes. Nancy Gear?
Yes. Okay, thank you. That brings us on to our discussion items for today. The first item in the discussion items is the Watsonville Community Hospital Strategic Planning and Marketing Committee removals and appointments. The recommendation here is to, 1, thank and formally excuse former Watsonville Community Hospital Strategic Planning and Marketing Committee member Matt Gobranges, former COO Watsonville Community Hospital, and 2, add Lisa Nell and administrative support to the Strategic Planning Committee and forward these moves to the board for approval. Steve, do you want to?
Yeah, I don't have much else to say. I think you got it. I think we had a very nice and passionate letter from Nell, who has chosen to step forward and be part of these conversations, and so that is useful for the board's consideration. Recommend approval. Good energy and ideas. Positive, will be a positive member of this committee.
Okay. Any questions for Steve from anyone else? Please.
Well, there's part Lisa's present. Something Matt might still want to be involved in as a non-employee or et cetera, et cetera. I realize he could attend public member, but
anybody could attend as a public member. I don't think he could be a committee member, could he? Bylaws say.
So he still need to be.
Yeah.
It seemed to me he might have valuable resources.
Mm-hmm.
Double check really quick as far as the membership makeup. Members of the public.
Lisa, in the meantime, is there anything else that you wanted to add that wasn't in the letter in terms of your qualifications or your wanting to be on the committee, to be a part of the group?
Thanks for the opportunity. I pretty much laid it all out there in the letter, so I'd like to add it.
It does state that we have if you like, how should we handle that?
I would just like to make a motion to approve it as written.
Yeah. Item, Director Gallagher?
Yes.
Steve Gray? Julie Peterson? Yes. Nancy Gray? Becky Jeter?
Yes. Oh, new information.
Sister.
I apologize.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll move on to item number 3, and this is, moving the Pajaro Valley Healthcare District and Watsonville Community forward. The recommendation here is to review and discuss the go-forward, short-term, and long-term options brought forward during the August 4th, 2025 Pajaro Valley Healthcare District, Watsonville Community Special Board Meeting Retreat, and bring a recommendation to the board for consideration at the next meeting. Steve, if you'd like to expand a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think we said everything at the board retreat on the 4th with respect to the current financial state and the future financial challenges that are ahead of us. And so this meeting is a continuation of that conversation and the opportunity for this committee to then bring a recommendation to the board, likely around the idea of the partnership concept and sort of having the board opine on and weigh in and give direction on at the full board meeting about the direction of staff to go out and find a partnership so that we have a strategic partner to venture into HR1 land together.
Thank you for that.
And we could certainly give updates on financial status. Now, if there are questions, there's a finance committee meeting later, obviously, where we'll dive into that more. And I think from a strategic standpoint, we could have the conversation about where we're going, who we're talking to. Obviously, the organizations that came forward during the RFP process are organizations we ought to reach out to again, re-engage that conversation. University of California is another organization that didn't respond to the RFP, but maybe one that could potentially make sense. So they're certainly getting attacked by the Trump administration as well. But they are also wanting to start a medical school in our community in a way that we that should be explored in conversations with the county. Also brought up at the line of credit meeting this morning that the concept that also came up at the strategy session about tax.
The idea of the tax,
The county brought up the idea of a sales tax that would benefit the healthcare needs, some of their strategic healthcare needs, like behavioral health and things like that that are challenged from a funding standpoint.
you remember that the timeline would be shotgun style, I would imagine, for something
Right.
like that. Get out ahead of the rail trail. Okay, I had a couple of questions on, from, I think towards the end of that, the retreat, which a couple of them were, what is our, council's direction or opinion as to whether or not we would have to re-engage right back with people who submitted a, response to the RFP, or if we would have to go back out and start that process over, depending on the direction?
So far, council is not recommending that for RFP.
We feel like just an extension of the direction that we gave. That saves a lot of steps for us. It's I would imagine UC is 6 to 10 years from starting an actual medical program here in our community, and I imagine community means Santa Cruz County Central Coast, not Watsonville community.
Right.
Is that right? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, Central Coast.
UCSC. UCSC? Yeah. So I have seen some reporting on that, and
Yeah.
I don't know what sort of investment that would entail of them entering into a partnership, although it's one that in the short term, I don't think might be one of the immediate answers. I do think that we have whatever the number of acreage is over here on the back end, 10 to 20, that I would love to have a SC medical school brought to you by Watsonville Community Hospital, whatever it is. That would be amazing. Talk about access to opportunity in healthcare and education. That would be fantastic for this region.
Right.
I just think, and maybe I'm wrong on this, and they are willing to partner and looking for a partner here. But in the short term, I'm not sure if they're the right fit for us, at least I understand. But did you?
Yeah, maybe not. I think it's willing, worth reaching out. They have partnered on the north side of the bay with Marin General a number of years ago, right? UCSF came in and brought some money and brought some operational expertise and some background to Marin General. They have a year or two on their hospital board, but not the district, that kind of thing. So if there was something like that then led into sort of eventually when the medical school opened, that like this is our main hospital for the medical school, like that kind of thing. I don't know if there's any there with them, but sure, worth asking.
So have you had any conversations with Dr. Poirier or any of the people that you talked with initially?
Not lately. I mean, he's finally moving into the office at mine. I got to reach out to him.
Sure.
It was some time back, and he said it basically, he wasn't getting calls back.
It was and I think shortly after that, they came to offices over at the.
They have the offices near Dominican, and I had heard the rumor trying to buy Dominican.
On the School of Medicine, in collaboration with the School of Medicine, plan is to begin accepting applications next year with the initial 6 students matriculating in the fall of 2021. They'll spend their first 2 years in Davis and then relocate to the Central Coast in the fall of 2020 for their 30-year clinical rotations.
Their vision of Switzerland, they're definitely part of the vision, right? In the Switzerland vision, they're definitely part of the vision, right? Switzerland vision. Yeah, I mean, I would be interested to know just why they didn't send anything in, I guess, the first time around. I also understand just
Probably not part of their strategic growth
right
area.
at this moment.
Right.
Yeah, and the timeline for us,
Mm-hmm.
the last time we went through this 6-month process, and obviously we had the RFP and that drug it out a little bit, but really want to focus in on 2 to 3 partners, right, that we think actually something there that can move in the next 2 to 3 months, and we can get something really not done quickly, but that conversation will move ahead fast. That's my feedback. I'd rather get to the table in the next 2 to 3 months and hammer something out over the next 6 rather than trying to get to the table with someone for 4 months. And kind of being in a less optimal position to target that kind of deal. If I could, what was the conversation around the sales tax? And was it just like we're throwing this out as a Hail Mary?
No, it sounds like something Carlos and at least the administrative administrative leadership at the county are considering is sales tax to help them with their funding shortfalls on the healthcare services side. And the idea was broached of the hospital as part of that, rather than us competing against each other with sales tax measures or just looking at ones just specifically for here, which would only tax the healthcare district. But, if there were a broader healthcare tax for the broader county.
Yeah. I thought for the clinics and stuff, for the countywide tax rather than, and that apparently Santa Clara County, so.
Right.
Within the next, for the same reason.
Within the next year. Interesting. I think so. The next ballot, whatever. March. Yeah, March. Special election they can do. March is a good time apparently.
He asked my wife, she would say no. It's like, not fun to lose you for almost 3 weekends or. Interesting, okay. I have a couple more questions, but anybody else? Questions? Comments, I guess, at this point?
Sure, I think much of our prior meeting was focused on Kaiser. Follow up from morning's meeting was about joint powers. There's an agreement in Monterey County between three hospitals. And could we become partner? Carlos said he had some experience. There was a document in LAFCO, Monterey County LAFCO, about that arrangement. But that Kaiser is seen as an existential threat to those three hospitals. And so it's an either or, as far as that goes, in terms of their perspective about us. As I thought about it more, my understanding is, yes, that they see it as an existential threat, but that either their rates are the highest in the country, their insurance rates, or healthcare in Monterey County isn't.
Yeah.
One or the other. And so, and then offhand, that Kaiser is
An important
providing a large percentage of
Yeah.
our revenue, it would seem that would be our better bet,
right.
rather than trying to sort of join up with something that's a maybe in the distance.
Yeah. So I've had one conversation with Kaiser leadership since the retreat, and I'll try to have another one tomorrow after today's. See where they're at.
I thought also Carlos kind of nailed it when he said Kaiser needs to step up.
Yeah.
With a $10 million loan, number to it. But he's quite aware, or I don't know how he's so aware, but there's a draft that promise and don't, or go slow. So that seemed to me to be our first priority would, in my view, of a potential partner. Or existing partners, expanded existing partnership.
So I think Joe, for this committee, I think this is where the motion in front of us, or the recommendation in front of us, is to provide a recommendation. From this group to the board, what that might be in terms of ad hoc, partnerships. And so I would like to leave it as broad as possible, for X options or whatever it is. I don't want to our administration in terms of what they can do and what they should be looking for in exhausting options. I have some questions around what what steps can we add on to that, getting into the next the next board meeting and as a recommendation to the full board. There's one, suggestion from Marcus that we, announce that it's, that we're, declare a fiscal emergency from the ad hoc. I just don't know.
I don't have any guidance from the legal on that yet. She initially heard that, she thought that was a county and the kind of a thing, not a healthcare district kind of thing. But I'll give the answer on Monday when I talk to her.
I think, I mean, as a nonprofit hospital, I think we can, don't have sorts of things. I don't know if we have to, that's something that we have to declare as our district status. And then, in terms of the timeline moving forward, say we make a recommendation for all partnerships, or whatever we want to call it, for this, what would that look like? Because after that, it would just allow you to get into the room with people and start to explore what might happen, what could happen.
Probably want to put together another ad hoc committee, at the board meeting. Where that, as part of the recommendation from the, together a partnership, we thought partners with Julie and me, as we're thinking about what that, what an agreement might look like. Helps us move a little faster than having to pull the full board together every time we want to talk about piece of the deal. To a point, shooting a deal.
Not proposing limiting, who we talk to. I was talking about prioritizing. Right. Something like that. Unless we don't have the bandwidth, I would look at the idea. Not put a whole lot of time in that.
No, totally.
Years away, but sure.
Okay.
I don't think the committee needs to recommend who the members would be. I think just recommend that we ought to do that, and then the full board should talk about who the membership would be and just vote on it.
We will need to come out of the board meeting with
And we need to agendize that. No, we just have that as part of the
recommendation.
report from this committee.
Yeah.
The recommendation.
Recommendation that we form an ad hoc, that we will, board members. I don't have to say who's in this recommendation.
I could also just form it in the point.
At the time.
But for transparency's sake, I think it'll be good to know what the next step is.
Right.
How they can get involved if they want to, how to follow the work. In terms of
Allison, can you hear us?
How about now?
Can you hear me now? Yes, okay.
Cool. I've lost my question. Jesus. I don't know how you feel.
We were talking about ad hoc committee, but was there something? Is that it?
Oh, we lost it. So there was, we had discussed some of the previous discussions that we had had with Kaiser and their previous, response to the IFP. I would assume that we're still moving, regardless of what we do and recommend, we're still moving those items forward and some of the things that they'd like to partner on with us.
Yeah, so 4 work streams that we've put together with Kaiser. One is ensuring that we have negotiated outpatient service rates, particularly for them so that they can refer patients here and take care of patients here in ambulatory surgery and in radiology. And then the second one is looking at the second floor, two west, so they can potentially use that for long-term acute care services for patients. So that would be, so those are the first 2. And then the second 2 are the rental of the medical office building space for their specialists and the sort of partnership around physician recruitment, which that's the one that's the most nebulous to me. I'm not sure what that one is or looks like. The other 3 are all pretty concrete. So working on the first 2 first.
Okay. And then
And as what I've said to them basically was like, these are great, we really want to do these, and they're not enough. What more can we do together to make sure that we stay working together for a long time?
And then the other one, Steve, I think you mentioned at the beginning, and this is what I lost. You're gonna give a presentation to the finance committee later today or tomorrow, I think.
No, the finance committee is what,
Next week.
2 weeks?
Yes. I think you had said that that you're able to update or provide an updated financial picture now, or is this financials the same as they were?
Oh, yeah, it hasn't changed since 2 weeks
Alright.
ago, yeah.
Okay.
High AP balance, low cash volume, low cash coming in, volumes have been low, although today is the first day that it's actually been above budget for a few weeks. See if that lasts, but this is something, but it has been below budget for a number of weeks in a row. And so the cash that's been coming in as a result of that has been low, and so AP balance goes up.
One of the other things we talked about in the retreat was the guardrails that we had in the RFP, which need to go away to be able to make things happen. And I realized number 9 about the C-suite. There was something else. I didn't bring my computer this afternoon. It's in a little briefcase.
That was the main one.
Yeah, that's me.
That was the main sticking point last time, and so if that's less of a sticking point this time, probably ought to bring that up just at least verbally at the board meeting. So people understand. I don't think we need to go through the guiding principles again and put them on the slides, but somebody from the board probably ought to mention it, so there can be some more transparency there. Obviously, this is a transparent meeting, but that one's a little more.
Yeah.
One of the others, as I reread about the union contracts, it basically said maintain current union contracts. It didn't talk about anything about the future.
Yeah.
So seems to me that that would be a good thing to reconsider and add in future union contracts or maintain union relationships, some such. And one says maintain the independence of Watsonville Community Hospital. The old news.
For the hospital, yes, and
Right.
the district,
District,
maybe a
other
different story, right?
Yeah, understood.
So I'm thinking about the recommendation that we can make today to the board. And I don't know what the right kind of verbiage is. So the recommendation of the strategic planning committee is to
You want to pass a motion to first establish? General partnerships, committee, or reestablish that one?
It's a new one,
Farm and Park Committee.
and it would be a recommendation to the board to establish that, right? This committee can establish that.
Starting now.
Well, I think probably starting with like directing staff to go out and find the partnership.
Or re-engage
Yeah,
the folks that responded.
yeah,
Plus any,
plus any others that would make sense,
yeah.
that are government or nonprofit. Something to that effect. Prescriptive, but not too prescriptive.
Right. Yeah, I think even like having. I mean, the spirit of it is, and we don't need to put it in writing, but already practicing healthcare in this community, whatever we want to say, on the Central Coast or
Right.
so. Yeah. So establish an ad hoc committee. And we should just immediately say just appointing a chair.
Yep, establish a partnership ad hoc committee, assign 2 board members and determine the chair.
And then direct staff to re-engage with previous respondents of external partnerships, RFP.
And
And engage new. I think it might be a meeting, one meeting too far in advance, maybe 2 meetings too far in advance, but. I would like to direct staff, and I know you guys are extremely busy already, but have some sort of. Public comment period or study set, I don't know what the right term would be, Allison would probably know, but. Just like a listening session with staff or with community about. Possible partnerships. Just so that we can give everyone the understanding that like this was the situation before and. Obviously the board meeting is going to serve as that, but I would like to have at least 1 or 2 of them in the community with like, we're not go bankrupt, we're actually trying to do the opposite of that, we're. Trying to strike a partnership so that we can continue to keep the doors open and bring services in ultimately. So. I just don't know what in terms of when in terms of the timeline of this process that would. Be best.
Yeah.
We're thinking like.
Yeah.
October, November. December, we're having.
But I guess we'll see how quickly others want to move, right? If there's a partner that wants to move quickly, then that kind of a thing might have to happen. September.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
My thought is the kind of thing you want to get out of.
Totally, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
And Tony, I wanted to raise, which came up at the retreat too, that the board members engage in this, in the communication out with and be engaged with the community. And I think that, you know, because the time frame is relatively short, I mean, it would be great to get. Steve is already out there talking to, you know, people and the PDC, but there's the chambers and the Rotaries and those kind of opportunities and the op-eds and that kind of thing. So there's lots of ways to engage and keep the community informed as we go through the process. So you know, I just think it's important that the board, not just the ad hoc, but all the board members are, you know, this is a, you know, it's a big move for the board to make, to move in a different direction. And so, yeah, I just want to plug people in where we can and really, I think that will help with the transparency and communication of the community. People see the folks they've, you know, elected to be sitting on this board out there talking, and it doesn't have to be could take all kinds of forms, but if it's a short-term thing, I'm saying it's easier if you potentially go to like, a Rotary that's already scheduled, and then try and form a listening discussion where you're trying to get people there where they're not already. So if we can, and I'm happy to support that effort with the board members going out, easily could do, just summarize things for individual board members and talking points and what have you, and tag teaming with Steve out there. But just to make sure that as we go through the process, it's transparent. Maybe.
Yeah, go to people, go to where people are.
Yeah,
Not make
exactly.
people come down.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was at the Rotary meeting yesterday, Watsonville Rotary, it's our first meeting at Elby's Go, Steve, we'd love to have you there, if you can join us. We're no longer at,
Is that a permanent thing? I saw that yesterday's was there, but it's gonna be there forever.
Yeah.
Perhaps gonna be there
well, not forever.
I know.
but-
That's the go forward location.
And, yeah, so that's our meeting left going forward, and then the Rotary barbecue the week prior, and the hospital is all people want to talk about right now. And so I was already letting people know about this, both Freedom and Watsonville Rotary. That's what the reality, be terrible next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We gotta start making some decisions here, and I think, ultimately, it'll be good for the community, it's just the direction that we've had, that's vision of that's, so.
Yeah.
But yes, let's do that, I'd love to do that. In any
Yeah.
way possible, I mean, can cover a lot of ground, just doing presentations at the council and all those sorts of things.
yeah, we can kind of map out, the next couple of months, depending on what this, like you said, how quickly people want to engage or what the timeline is, then we can kind of map out where can we go to stay in communication.
I think whenever we get to the point, and that's why I was thinking like it's maybe 2 meetings ahead or more. But if we do get to a point where it is a substantial partnership and we're going to announce that, I would love for whoever it is that we partner with to be able to join us on.
Oh, for sure.
a Same session of what's the future of
Yeah,
whatever this looks like.
Right.
So, yeah, so when we get to that point. So. I don't have any other questions, at least at this point, so. But those are 2 good recommendations. I don't know if you want to think that, if you think the board needs anything else other than those 2 things. At this point.
It's back to the guardrails. One of the things was sort of about the divorce issue. I think we need to sort of put attention there to say, at the point this doesn't work, what do we need to walk away, be able to walk away from this, so. I think that needs some attention.
Yeah.
That's my only other thought.
Do you want to?
Sure.
No. I'm saying, do you want to have like here's 5 that we still think are like the very basis for, or? do you
Yeah, I
want to-
have sort of scratched it somewhere. I'll email you if that's, unless you want it now.
Probably
I'll
now.
off the top of my head. Could be operating capital, functional computer system.
Oh, I mean, like 5 of the guidelines.
Oh,
Of the 14 that we wanna. Still have as like, or maybe it's not. It's not that, and that's, we have a discussion with the full board as to whether or not we want to. Hold any of these, or try to hold any of these as we.
Sure. I have, it's too diffuse in my head to propose it this time.
Yeah.
I looked at them and scratched some stuff off, but I need to go back to those notes. I would be glad to email them. With my thoughts.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a different perspective.
Yeah, I just don't know how to hold over any of those guidelines and not. I would imagine some of those are yes, no brainers as we're getting into these.
Sure.
I don't know.
I'd like to see maintain the name, you know.
Like that's,
That was under the heading of yes.
yes.
It seems to me it's really the distinction of what is the not-for-profit hospital doing separate from the district, because the district had more guardrails that we have to keep in place, with
Yeah.
the bond measure and the government status. Where the hospital itself, it's getting a partnership, separate from the district, I think we have a little more leeway.
And I would think a potential partner would want to avoid those district pitfalls as well, because there's capital there, right, that we have as a result of being part of the district because of the bond measure. That was
Yes.
in jeopardy, that's capital that we and they would lose out on.
It's a complicated question. That's maybe a peripheral separate. What happens to the bond measure as we do? I assume, like you said, it's part of the district.
Yeah.
But do we then spend the rest of the money? What happens if we become essentially some other part of some other system, et cetera, et cetera? And maybe that doesn't need to be laid out, but at some point I'd like to know how all that plays out.
Yeah.
So I think our responsibility to the community and their tax bill.
Yeah, I mean, certainly when we had a lot of conversations with council during the RFP process, and any kind of management services agreement of the hospital was not gonna put that in jeopardy on the district side, but the
Yeah.
bond. Now, if something is proposed that's broader in scope, different, we have to approach that question again.
Okay, good.
There was one of the last things, and forget the exact wording of it, Joe, in the actual ballot language. One of the last provisions of how this money can be used is leave the general health and wellness of the community through structural investment or whatever, so we could use it for, I don't know if we could use it outside of the campus. If we say we're gonna
Yeah.
invest the money on our clinic or.
Yeah, it's not limited to the clinic, it's limited to the benefit of the hospital and the health and well-being, so if we had a offsite clinic or an offsite cancer center or whatever it might be, I think we could.
Okay.
do that.
I think it would open up conversation as to, say, whoever comes in and says, oh, we'll cover the expenses for the emergency room expansion, and we'll do it that way, we can
Right,
use the remainder.
okay, that's what I wonder. Do we need to spend this money when we have a partner who might else wants to be?
I mean, it would be,
Gotcha.
it would. As a follow through for what we pitched it to be used
Yeah.
for our community, right? Like, it would be good to follow through on the major items, but. There's nothing that would restrict us from using it for other things. So. Probably discussion once we. Go to that. Yeah. Okay. If I put in there as a recommendation that I want both of your actually, maybe, if I put in as a recommendation to the board to establish a new set of guidelines. Like, do your stress levels just go through the roof if I do that, or?
Yeah, if it's gonna take more than a couple days. If we wanna talk about them and give us,
Yeah.
make that as part of the direction, then we could do that, but if we're gonna have to like. Convene an ad hoc committee multiple times to do it like we did last time, and then bring it to the board, and then bring it back to the ad hoc committee, and then back to the board. Then yeah, I think you'll give both of us an aneurysm, or stroke, or whatever happens when you get really stressed.
And don't sleep.
So it could be part of the second recommendation to, we discuss or reestablish discussions on the partnerships and to re-engage and we add on and revise guidelines.
I would think it'd be its own separate item, just so that it doesn't get tied up in the item three.
And just direct staff though, do it, not direct staff, like it's. It doesn't have to keep.
Right, so we're gonna have to keep just. With the input of the board at that meeting, I don't know how to word it, but with the input from the board at that meeting. Staff makes updates to the guidelines or whatever it might be.
Mhm.
Are you suggesting we're gonna present updated guidelines at the August board meeting?
No, that, according to the input that's given to administration that meeting. That you then go and then update the guidelines according to that.
Okay.
After.
After the meeting, and then they can come back to us as consent, just like as a transparency thing for October.
Okay.
These are the updated guidelines. Yes, sorry. Yeah, my son's already wearing his Halloween costume, so. Nice.
I like Bosco's been all over.
Yeah, you got this giant skeleton ready. So is that okay?
Yep.
I think that works. Yeah.
We'll make it work.
I just don't want. I don't think that this. Like some of the conversation that we had, and I'm wondering if we'll forget, if we'll even get any kind of press coverage, and I don't know if there's sense, Nancy. But I want the community to see that, yes, we are still being thoughtful and mindful of how we're approaching this, so we're not just saying, white flag, come save us someone, right?
Right.
So. It's so important.
This is not a failure, this is a strategic pivot as a result of what's in front of us.
Exactly. That's all. I think that's it.
Okay.
Now. Sales tax, huh?
Move to
Yeah.
adjourn.
We need to make the recommendation.
Full recommendation, whatever you
Yeah,
have.
we need to take a roll call vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I have first is pass a motion to, one, establish a partnerships ad hoc committee, assign 2 board members and a plan chair. And 2, direct staff to reengage in discussions to establish external partnerships RFP and engage new possible interest in partnering. And 3, direct staff to revise RFP guidelines and bring back to the board for ratification in September.
We're not redoing the RFP.
No, to
The
establish.
second one kind of confused me.
Sorry, direct staff to re-engage in discussions
With our
With
respondents.
with external partner, okay, with RFP respondents, okay,
Yeah.
and engage new possible interest in partnerships.
And the third one, if you could add in there, the revision to the guideline with, or, something about like with the input provided today or something like that. I don't know. We actually have to add that in.
I think it will happen, and we'll discuss it, I will put it forward, but.
Make a motion.
Do we have a motion to?
I make a motion.
It's like, you
Okay, we'll take a roll on that item, Director Gallagher.
Yes.
Julie Peterson.
Yes.
Steve Gray.
Yes.
Andy Gear.
Yes.
Chair Nichols.
yes, it's Lisa, not.
Not yet.
Oh, not yet.
Don't worry.
Board approval, I think I'm on.
It's my son.
Did we take public comment on that one?
No, we did not.
Or not? Do that now.
Yeah.
Should we cover it?
Open up public comment on this item number 3. Any raised hands, which is speak on this item?
No hands up, fine.
Seeing none. I'll close on the public comment and I will now adjourn us. Thank you.
Beautiful. Yes, it's beautiful.
Oh, yeah.